Well, what we know is that she's currently in hospital in Bristol, that the accident or incident happened on her estate, which is Gatcombe Park in Gloucestershire. It's where she spends a lot of her time. We also know she wasn't riding a horse, that she was walking. Now, whether that was walking one of her dogs or not, we don't know. I think what perhaps is the most worrying announcement from the palace is that they're not entirely sure how it happened. In other words, it seems that Princess Anne hasn't been able to tell them. Excuse me. And therefore, they simply say that medic's best guess, or in other words, her injuries are compatible with those
Hmm.
sustained by, a horse kick or from a horse's head. So that's all that they can say. But they do say that they think she'll be out of hospital later this week. And she's had to cancel her trip to Canada, which she was planning to do at the end of this week. So everything in her diary has now been put on hold.
And those are presumably precautionary measures because at any age, but especially as we get older, you can't really mess about with a head injury, can you?
No, I think a head injury is serious, whatever her age. I mean, Princess Anne is 73 years old, but we often say she's the hardest working royal. We saw her at Ascot last week with other members of the royal family. In fact, she was riding in the carriage with Lady Gabriella Kingston, the who recently lost her husband. So yeah, look, I think doctors will be very concerned, and the palace do say yes, she suffered from concussion, and therefore, whatever happened, we don't quite know how the alarm was raised, if she was on her own, for example. Therefore, there's quite a few questions still unanswered, but we just know where it happened, where she is now, and the best guess is it happened as a result of some kind of collision, if you can call it that, with a horse.
Well, I mean, I guess if your head comes into contact with a horse's head or a horse's foot, you're close to that horse, maybe bending down if it's the foot that hit her, and they can really give a kick, can't they, horses? And or if
Yeah,
it's
and
the
I think
head,
that
it could
is
be when you're close contact, it just butts you basically. Neither is
That is the
good.
concern. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. That's the concern. I mean, I've been to Gatcombe Park. In fact, I interviewed Princess Anne there once, and I do remember her sort of driving past me and her dog leaning out of the sort of back window, and it's quite uh, one of those kind of dogs that you wouldn't mess with, put it that way. And I've actually spoken to some of her protection officers before who say actually we don't really worry about her when she goes out for a walk because she's got this dog with her. Now, I'm not saying this is what happened, but it's
Mhm.
entirely possible that there could have been some kind of confrontation between
The
dog and
dog and
horse. Who
horse.
knows?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's just my guesswork there. We haven't had that from the palace, but certainly her husband, Admiral Sir Tim Laurence, was on the estate. I don't think he was with her at the time, and he was the one that went to hospital in Bristol, and that's where she remains at the moment.
I think the fact that they've cancelled that trip to Canada feels significant to me. Yes, an abundance of caution, and you would want that, if it happened to either yourself or somebody else. But that would suggest they're taking this very seriously if they're cancelling things like that.
Yeah, again, we're coming back to a head injury, aren't we? And these royal tours are pretty full on, whether you're Princess Anne and you take minimum staff, or whether you're the king and you have quite a big entourage. They are, there's engagement after engagement, day after day. So, I mean, I haven't even looked at the itinerary of what she was meant to be doing in Canada. Nevertheless, again, cancelling that trip and all her other engagements this week suggests she does need quite a long period of recovery. And it's not like Princess Anne to cancel things unless she absolutely
Mm.
has to. So I think that probably says something about the severity of the kick or the headbutt that she got from this particular horse. But this happened last night, we're told, Sunday evening. So therefore, she's only been in hospital for
A few
perhaps less
hours.
than 24 hours, but might be out later this week.
But a very, very experienced horsewoman. And not just in terms of riding, but in knowing horses. And of course, the
Yeah,
Queen was, and she'd
absolutely.
have learnt
Yeah.
everything from her, wouldn't
Yeah,
she?
the whole family is as well. Zara Tindall, who is actually also on the Gatcombe Park estate, she's very good with horses. Don't forget, Princess Anne was the only member of our royal family who competed in the Olympics and did so on a horse in 1976, I think I'm right in saying. So, yeah, he's very experienced with horses. But it looks like some kind of incident happened. And as I say, the medics think her injuries are consistent with a leg or a head injury. I mean, the king, we are told, has been kept informed about his sister's health and sends his fondest love and well wishes, according to the palace, for a speedy recovery. So, I mean, I think they certainly think she will recover and will be out of hospital. But again, we're talking about concussion and a head injury, and therefore no risks are being taken.
And you mentioned there the workload, the things she turns up to day after day after day. Over my years as a reporter, and certainly as a royal editor, you'll have seen it as well. I noticed two things over the years. She's got a blinding sense of humour when she's at those. She's got a very sort of wry, quick-witted sense of humour, I think. But also that she's so fantastic with veterans, with the elderly veterans. We saw it at D-Day. I saw it at the commemorations in Liverpool for the Battle of the Atlantic in September, I think it was last year. Just pitch perfect.
You know, she's pitch perfect with kind of everyone she meets, whether you're going to a yacht club and she's, she is herself a good sailor as well, whether it's D-Day or whether it's some event that she has no personal knowledge of, she'll get herself across it. And she's very good at keeping that kind of laser-like subject matter, and not deviating from it in any way, shape or form. In fact, I was talking to a Telegraph reporter recently who spent something like 24 or 48 hours with Princess Anne whizzing around the country as she does. And that is who she is. She just, has the job in hand. She gets on with it. She gets herself across the brief and she knows it inside out by the time she gets there, and does a lot of them as well, often with very, very minimal publicity. So taking her out of the fold at a time when the royal family is a little bit thin on the ground in any case, that's
Not
a
great.
bit of an issue for them.
But we wish her well.